everyone, Stormy Strike here, and in this video I'm going to be going over my thoughts and opinions about this year's BreyerFest special runs. And just the special runs in this video. I will be doing another video closer to BreyerFest where I will give my opinions on all the BreyerFest models, like the raffle models, tent models, prize models, stablemates, and so on. But for this video, we're only going to be discussing the 8 special runs. So kick back and relax for a bit as we go through all of them in detail. I was fortunate enough to get to see half of the 2019 special run models in person at BreyerWest, so I will be throwing in some pictures and videos of the ones I got to see in person into this video, so you'll get to see a little bit closer look at those ones beyond just the 2 pictures that Breyer has posted of them. Keep in mind that in this video, I'm just expressing my own personal thoughts and feelings and opinions about these models. Everyone else will have different opinions on them, and that's completely okay. You are welcome to agree or disagree with what I have to say. I will also be talking about the reasons why I believe certain models are not received well by the general model horse hobby, and what could theoretically be changed to have made them a little bit more desirable by collectors. Now on to the models and my thoughts about them. My thoughts of the 8 special runs for this year as a whole, overall, is that they don't really have the wow factor that ones in previous years had, but at the same time, I don't actually dislike any of them either. They just don't feel as fantastical to me as some of them have been in previous years. Like last year, I felt like a lot of the special runs, a lot of people were really excited about and had the wow factor to them. Personally, like the models By a Nose and Dead Heat were just ones that were kind of like wow factor models that felt like special runs and really special. This year, they all kind of don't really feel like that same really special feeling that they usually have, which I know other people kind of seem to have the same feelings about. From what I've heard and seen, the exact reason for this I'm a little unsure of. I don't know if people are just not quite as excited about the colors that the models are in, or if maybe because Breyer came out with such really great regular runs this year that these special runs just don't feel quite as special when compared to these amazing regular runs that Breyer is already coming out with. I'm really not too sure, but there does seem to be something that feels maybe a little bit off this year, just not quite as wow, amazing as some of the special runs have been in previous years. But I know that is not something that everyone feels. There are a lot of people that are really excited about these special runs, and I am excited about them. I'm just not quite as excited as I usually feel about them. I don't know if that's just because I don't particularly care for them as much, or if I'm just not as excited about buying special runs this year. I really don't know. But as mentioned, I still like all of these special runs. There really isn't one that I particularly dislike or definitely wouldn't want to have or something. So even though maybe they aren't that wow overall, I still do like all of them. Before I get into the individual models, I also just want to mention about the names that were picked for these special run models. Now, they are obviously based after mostly Marvel characters, but I don't feel like they really fit well with the models they're for. I'll explain a little more once I get into each individual model. Now, the names do fit with the theme, I just don't really feel like the names really go well with the models they're put with. But at the same time, the names really don't matter much to me at all. I end up renaming half the models anyway, and I don't necessarily associate them with the superhero names they were given. I don't know, it doesn't matter to me too much what their names are called, because their names aren't super important to me. It's more about just the models themselves. But it is funny that I didn't even realize that the first special run model that came out, that her name was supposed to connect to Marvel. When she first came out, I didn't really read the description that Breyer put on the BreyerFest blog, and I just assumed she was meant to be named after, like, Salt and Pepper. But anyway, let's talk about that one. So the first special run model is Pepper, who I know a lot of people don't really like. Admittedly, she is probably my least favorite of the special runs this year as well, but I don't dislike her, especially after seeing her in person. She is actually a lot nicer in person. Her coloring is very vibrant, but in person it doesn't look quite as funky as the pictures that were posted by Breyer. Her markings are pretty cool. I especially like the spot on her left foreleg. I think that's cute. I do wish I liked her more because I do like the Clydesdale mare mold. I think she would have been better well received if she didn't have that really flaxen mane and tail. I think if her mane and tail was more of a chestnut color like the rest of her body, then she'd be more appealing because that would draw more attention to those beautiful Sabino markings she has, instead of our attention being focused on to her bright mane and tail. That would have also have reminded me more of the character Pepper Potts that she's named after, because the yellow mane and tail really threw me off on that association. I think this model would have also been really interesting in other colors beyond just this chestnutty color. Something like a gray would have looked really nice and gone well with those Sabino markings. Kind of like a gray Sabino Clydesdale. That would have been really neat. But of course, that's just my random ideas on what would have maybe made me love this model over just liking her. I may or may not be getting Pepper, I haven't decided yet, but if there are ones left over, then maybe I will try and get one. The second special run is Quill. I like this guy, but as already mentioned, there isn't a special run this year that I don't like. I really like this guy's coloring and pattern a lot, actually. I love the Appaloosa pattern. I feel like Breyer hasn't really done an Appy pattern quite like this one before, with the little jaggedy lines at the front of the blanket pattern, if you know what I mean. On his offside, he has a little heart spot snuck into his pattern, which is cute. His mane and tail are very pearly, very pearlescent. I got to see that in person. It is very, very shiny and pearly in person. It may be to the point where it's kind of unrealistic, but I still think it's kind of neat. Now, the only thing about this model that I think is a bit of its downfall, and the reason why there isn't more hype for him, is that he is on the Smart Ciccolina mold. Well, I do like the Smart Ciccolina mold, and I know a lot of other people like him too. The problem is that I feel like Breyer has used this mold a lot recently. It feels like every year Breyer comes out with a new model on this mold. Case in point, in 2016 there was the Web Special Gideon and the Tractor Supply model Garrett. In 2017, the regular run Slick by Design came out. And then last year in 2018, the regular run Latigo Dunnit also came out. As I said, there is nothing wrong with this mold. Like, I don't have anything against it. I believe I have 7 models on this mold even. But I just feel like this mold is used so often, and often as a pretty widely available model, not just like a model with only a few made on it, that a special run on it, no matter what color, just doesn't feel quite as exciting. Granted, I think one of the big reasons it's being used so often is because it is a popular choice for portrait models of real-life horses. And this is actually the first time the mold has been used as a BreyerFest special run, so it is kind of hard to complain about it being used as a special run when it hasn't been used as a special run before. Maybe one of the biggest reasons is because people were just really expecting to see more of the Premier Club molds this year for the special runs, so seeing a model on the Smart Chick mold isn't quite as exciting. I don't know. People would probably be more excited about it if it was on a different mold, but I don't even know what mold to suggest because all of the new molds that people are wanting are already being used or have been used recently as special runs, so I don't even know what mold I would suggest would be a better fit for this model. I've been talking about this for far too long now, but there is one last thing I want to mention, and that's that I do not think of Star-Lord when I see this model. Whenever I think of Star-Lord, I think of that burgundy red leather jacket that he wears. So unless a model named Quill or Star-Lord is a red chestnut, I'd say the same thing about any model that I just don't feel like it fits with him. Unless it was like a red chestnut, I would think it would be a better fit for a Star-Lord. But that's just for me personally. Again, the names don't really matter too much to me. Alright, let's move on to the third model. Model number 3 is Diana, and she is the only special run, besides the surprise, that isn't named after a Marvel superhero. Instead, she is named after a DC superhero. This one I do feel like fits Wonder Woman pretty well. This is a glossy bay on the Roxy mold, and I also got to see her in person. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to see her in the photos and videos I took because the glass box around her was kind of scratched up, and she was really glossy, so the cameras were not really liking her and picking her up very well. She is a pretty model, and my favorite thing about her is actually kind of hard to see in the photos that Breyer posted, which is her face marking. She has a star and like a long snip on her face, and I think they are really cute markings on her. I want her just for those adorable face markings. She is nicely shaded, and while I know some people don't really like it when Breyer has these solid colored horses as the special runs, I think adding a nice solid color horse into the special run mix is a good idea. And she does appear to be nicely shaded with some rich coloring. On to number 4, Bucky! This is the non-equine special run for this year, which is on the St. Bernard animal mold. And this model is about the size of a classic or a small traditional pony. It is not like a really tiny little Breyer dog. It's not also super huge, but it's bigger than those little companion dogs. I'm super excited about this guy. In fact, he is my favorite special run of this year. I'm on a Breyer animal kick right now, and I do not have a Breyer St. Bernard yet, so I really need to get this guy. I really like his coloring. He's just a big old cute St. Bernard doggy, and he reminds me of Sumo from Detroit Become Human, so I'm going to be renaming him Sumo. I am just really excited about him. I guess the name Bucky, the Winter Soldier, does make sense for him since he's a rescue doggo in snow and stuff, but once I get mine, his name will be Sumo. Number 5, Natasha, based after Black Widow. I really like this mare. She actually looks pretty different in person than in the photos Breyer put. In person, her coat is a very metallic bay. She also didn't seem to have quite as much shading, I feel like, in person as she does in the Breyer photos, but I may just be remembering wrong, or the model they put out had different shading from the one they took pictures of. I'm not really sure why I like her so much, but I think she's really lovely. And I feel like she'd be a really nice model to use as a character in like a model horse movie or something. She just kind of has that look to her. Number 6 is Hero's Welcome Surprise, which is the Gambler's Choice special run for this year. And we won't be seeing what this model is until Friday morning at BreyerFest. I will be doing a video in about 1 to 2 months where I will try to figure out what mold the surprise model will be. I might even have some color guesses as well. I will say for now that I think it's interesting that it doesn't have another Marvel character or superhero character name. The name Hero's Welcome Surprise and the logo they have for it makes me think this is leaning more towards the idea of traditional horse heroes and less on the Marvel heroes. But that doesn't mean I think they will have any portrait models for this run. In fact, I am almost certain that this model will not have any portraits of real-life horses. I hope that I like the surprise model for this year, whatever it will be. I hope it's on a mold I like, as I am going to try and get 4 of them if possible. Now, this isn't my official guess for what the surprise horse will be. That will come later in my speculation video, But I'm secretly hoping that it will be on the Show Jumping Warm Blood mold, because I really like that mold and I would like to see it in some fun colors and patterns, and maybe with the different manes and tails. Like maybe 2 of the models have the braided mane and tail variation, and 3 of them have the loose mane and tail variation. I don't know, but that's just what I'm personally hoping for, but that is not my official guess for what the surprise horse will be. Second to last, number 7 here is Rocket. Now this is a model where I really feel like the names Breyer gave really don't match up with the models, which might be on purpose to avoid any possible lawsuits, but this guy does not remind me of Rocket at all. Maybe a little bit for his color, but not really, because Rocket's a little raccoon and he's mostly like dark brown, and this guy is a big lanky thoroughbred. I actually want to call this guy Groot. He'd make a much better Groot, although I'm pretty sure Breyer doesn't have the license for that name, so they probably had to just settle on Rocket. But to me, he looks more like a Groot. But that is not all I have to say about this guy. I actually have quite a lot to say here. He is on the new Emerson mold, which came out in the Premier Club in 2018. I like this mold a lot from what I've seen in person so far, and I really want to add one in my collection. So I'm going to have to get this guy. But the one thing that kind of disappoints me, and others too from what I've heard, is how this guy is pretty similar to another BreyerFest special run that was released 2 years ago. We're talking about the 2017 special run, Saffron. Rocket here looks a lot like Saffron. Obviously, they are not the same. Their molds are completely different breeds, and their colors aren't even the same color, but they are pretty darn similar. I think what really makes these models look too similar is that they both have almost the same leg markings and similar face markings. If Rocket only had like 1 or 2 small socks and no face marking or maybe a little star on his face, the similarities between them wouldn't be as obvious. I'm just pretty surprised by this. Like, how did Breyer not see that these 2 models are very similar? Granted, Rocket is a buckskin and Saffron is a dun. Rocket's color looks less saturated than Saffron, and Rocket looks like he has more dapples. But they are pretty similar and are only 2 years apart. If they were like 5 years apart as special runs, it probably wouldn't feel like it would matter as much. But since they were kind of released pretty close together, it's just, I don't know, it's a little odd. Overall, I do like Rocket. If we just pretend for a minute that Saffron does not exist, he is definitely a nice model on his own. It looks like he will be nicely shaded. However, I do wish that he didn't have dapples. I don't know why, I just think that the dapples are a little for him. He doesn't really need them to make him look nice. I think he'd be a lot prettier if he just had some really nice shading and didn't have any dapples. And I also wish that he didn't have the 4 white stockings, as I already mentioned. I'd much rather like him if he just had like 1 or 2 little socks. But that's just what I would personally like if I was to make little changes to this model. I do like him and I do plan to get him. On to the last special run, number 8, Banner. There was some discourse that this horse is named Banner after Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, and it isn't green. But by this point in the special run announcements, I've just completely stopped trying to figure out why they named the models the way they did. But Snoopy as my horse did bring up a good point, which is that there are versions of the Hulk character out there in the comics where he is red instead of green. So, although I did have a thought, what if they did a red and green split of this model? Oh wait, that would just be like Christmas colors though. Yeah, scratch that. I don't think they're going to actually be doing that, but that would be interesting. I'm also surprised they didn't choose a draft horse to be named Banner. Name aside, this model's color is actually based on an old connoisseur, Tortuga, from 2004. who had the same black and red clearwear thing going on. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that if you didn't know already, this model is a clearwear model, so you can hold this guy up to the sun and the sun will shine through it because it is made out of a clear plastic. I like this guy, I think he's pretty, and I would like to get him. I think my mom would really like him too because she likes quite a handful of decorators. I am surprised that Breyer used the American Saddlebred mold for this, because not only did they use it already for the early bird raffle model, which really isn't a huge deal since there's only 3 made, but it was used this year for an America the Beautiful web special, and at the end of last year, it was used for the new Wild Animal web special series. So it's been used 3 other times within less than 12 months. Breyer, you know you can use other molds, right? I'm just kidding. I feel like people aren't as salty about this mold being used again as they would be with Smart Chick, because all those times that the American Saddlebred mold has been used recently is with expensive limited run models that aren't as easy to get as regular runs are. I don't know if people also just generally like this mold better than the Smart Chickalina mold. I don't know. With Banner, while I do like the decorator choice that Breyer did for this model, I am surprised that they went with a Breyer model throwback color, because I was actually expecting them to do something superhero-like. I was really expecting that they would maybe do kind of like a comic book themed horse, like comic book print, kind of like a pop art horse. I was really expecting that, so I was surprised when this guy came out, because all the other special runs were so comic book themed. I was kind of just really expecting that and thought they were going to do something really creative like that. But that's okay. What they decided to choose for this model is something that has been tested and proven to be pretty well received by collectors. So I think it wasn't a bad choice in the end. I just was kind of expecting something a little different from the usual, especially since last year they did that flash with the blue and white blanket pattern, racing blanket pattern on it. I thought they were going to do something more along the lines of that this year. Lastly, for this guy, I stumbled upon this when looking at the mold on identifyyourbreyer.com. In 2010, Breyer had a clearwear ASB Tortuga like this guy, but in blue, gold, and sparkles. I just find it interesting. It's like this guy was a test for Banner before they ever decided to have a model like Banner as a special run. Now that I've gone over all of the BreyerFest special runs, there is another topic I want to bring up, which has been discussed a bit in the model horse hobby, which is the question of, will one of these special runs end up having a half glossy, half matte that Breyer will surprise us with at BreyerFest? This is of course excluding talking about the Gambler's Choice model. It is definitely possible that Breyer will do a glossy matte split on one of these special runs. For the past 3 years in a row, Breyer has been doing this for the BreyerFest special runs, so it certainly wouldn't be that big of a surprise if they did it again this year. Breyer has also done it in other years of BreyerFest, like in 2014, but they didn't do it in 2015. They very well might not do a glossy matte special run split this year, but we're going to go ahead for the time being and assume they are, so we can speculate for a couple minutes on which special run might be getting the glossy matte split. First off is Pepper, and I think she has a very high possibility of being half in glossy. I think that would make her color look really neat and help her sell. Now for Quill, I really don't see him being half glossy, and the reason for that is because his color is kind of one of the more fantastical ones for this year's special runs. Kind of like how By Nose last year was a really sought after model with that loud coloring. It really didn't need to be glossy, although that would have been cool if it was. I don't know if that makes any sense, but basically I feel like Breyer doesn't generally do a glossy split on models that already really have eye-catching colors and patterns. On the third special run, Diana, I don't think she will be the split because she is already the only glossy special run besides the decorator. And I don't think Breyer has ever shown the glossy version of a model and then been like, surprise, half of them are actually matte. You know? I'm pretty sure none of the other Glossy Matte Split SRs, they've always shown just the matte one and then surprised with the glossy one at BreyerFest. So I don't think she'll have a half matte run, but who knows. I actually wouldn't mind seeing her in matte if they did end up doing that. The fourth special run Bucky almost certainly will not be, because Breyer hasn't done a matte and glossy split of the animal special runs, at least none that I know of. If they did do that, I'd be in trouble because I'd have to get both. Number 5, Natasha. I feel the same about her as I do Quill, especially since I mentioned her color is pretty metallic in person. It's already pretty shiny and eye-catching. I don't really see them wanting to gloss her with that color, but who knows, it's possible they could put her half in gloss. I don't know, I'm just speculating here. Number 7, because we're skipping number 6, the surprise model, because they will obviously have glossy variations. So number 7 is Rocket, and I could see him being in glossy, but I really hope Breyer doesn't put him in glossy, just because they already did a glossy matte split of Saffron, who, as I already talked about, just feels way too similar to Rocket. I think it would be kind of odd for Breyer to gloss this model when just 2 years ago they did the same to a similar looking colored model. Lastly is Banner, who is already glossy and a decorator, and I don't think he would look nearly as well in matte, so I would be really surprised if he was a glossy matte split. So overall, that leads me to say that I think Pepper is the most likely model to be half glossy and half matte. That is, if Breyer does do that to one of the special runs this year. Who knows, maybe they won't do that this year. But if I were to guess, my guess is Pepper would be in half glossy. Now before I wrap up this video, I'm going to go ahead and, just for fun, rank the special runs in descending order of how much I like them, or how much they are my favorites. Now this list will be excluding the surprise model, because we don't know what it will be yet. As I already talked about, Bucky is my favorite for this year. I'm really excited to get him. My second favorite on this list would probably be Rocket, partially just because I really want a model on this mold, and I do like the colored buckskin. I feel like I am just going to like him a lot. My third favorite is Natasha, although she could be easily switched with the next model on my list, who is Quill. I really like Quill's coloring, and I like Natasha's color too. These two are almost tied for being my third favorite special run this year. For my fifth and sixth favorite models, they could also be kind of easily switched with each other, but I'd say my fifth favorite is Banner. I'm not always super big into the decorators, but I do like this guy. I think he is really pretty. Maybe it's just because of the red and black. And I think I only have one traditional clear wear Breyer in my collection, so it'd be kind of neat to add another one. And then my sixth favorite is Diana. I do like her a lot and would like to try and get her, but for some reason I just don't really need her as much as I feel like some of the other special runs. And then lastly is poor Pepper. I do like her though, as I mentioned before, and I wouldn't mind trying to get her maybe too, but she is definitely not a top priority on my list. Thank you guys for sticking around through this video. I'm sure it will be ridiculously long, but hopefully interesting enough. Now I want to hear from you guys. Tell me in the comments what your favorite BreyerFest 2019 special run is. If you'd like, you can also tell me how you would rank these models from your favorite to your least favorite. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep an eye out on my channel for more BreyerFest videos, and also my BreyerWest videos that I'm trying to catch up on getting out. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!